Social Studies 9. It's Mr. Sir again, obviously, since I'm the only one that teaches you Social Studies 9. But here we go. We are on assignment number 14. So let's have a look. Nobody needs to look at that yet. Okay, so we're on chapter 8 now. So we have chapter 8 and we have chapter 9 left. Now, both these chapters are very short. We will definitely be done them before the end of the year. And wow, you guys are almost done grade 9 and moving on to grade 10, which is absolutely crazy. Anyways, now this is just an introduction to chapter 8, which is looking at social programs and taxes. So let's start with this notes slideshow over here. So, social programs and taxes. So the big question for this chapter is, to what extent should Canadians support social programs and taxation? Well, we've talked a little bit about social programs and taxes before, but we're going to spend, obviously this could be a little bit more of a deep dive into it. So, let's have a look. So, what is this chapter all about? Well, in this chapter we will understand what social programs are, what types of social programs are available in Canada and the United States, how social programs are funded through taxes, and how the underground economy, also known as the black market, negatively affects social programs. Now, just a little bit of information just before we get into everything. So as it says, it's important for us to know that social programs and taxes are connected. Without taxes, social programs cannot exist. So for example, in Canada, we could not have public health care. So health care that we have where it's for all people, it's provided by the government, it is funded, set up by the government, and when you leave, there's no bill that you have to pay for the services that you received. Now we wouldn't be able to have that if we didn't have moderately high taxes. Now, I know some people don't like high taxes, but in the US, for example, they have lower taxes, but their healthcare is private. So that means it's run by companies, and people must buy health insurance or pay for services by themselves. So that means once you finish with the doctor's office, they give you a bill and you pay out of pocket. Now, before we can continue, there are some terms you need to understand. Now, I know I said public healthcare and private healthcare, and I talked about social programs. So what actually we're focusing on for this lesson is looking at vocabulary. So I'm going to open up the other slideshow. Here. Okay, so Social Studies 9, Chapter 8. To what extent... Okay. To what extent should Canadians support social programs and taxation? Okay. Now the instructions that we have. So go through the slides in the Chapter 8 vocabulary slideshow. The vocabulary is listed as you go along. So what I mean there is, if I go to the other slideshow, so for this first one, well, definition. Well, what are social programs? Well, social programs, I have the term here, and the definition. And there's some pictures and stuff. Okay, so let's use this as an example. So, follow along with each slide here. Look at the vocabulary word on the top of the slide. You'll complete a Frayer model vocabulary chart for the word listed on each slide. Now, not every vocab word will be included. So as you go through the slideshow, there's going to be a few that are maybe bunched together or just excluded altogether. So like here, the first one is social program. So I have a few things that I need to do. I need to, in this first top part, I need to write the definition. Okay, so I can just go here and I can use the definition we have here. Services provided by the government to reduce economic inequalities and promote the well-being of citizens. So I would copy that into here. Then visual, so add or draw a picture. So if there's a picture you can find on Google Images, or if you're feeling creative, you can go into Google Draw and you can create your own picture. Now, yeah, over here I have examples. So I can think, okay, examples of social programs. Well, if I'm doing a little bit of research, I've already talked about one. One example could be healthcare is a social program in Alberta. And then also I have to think, okay, what are some other social programs that reduce inequalities? Well, I think about, employment insurance. Now that's something you maybe have heard about, especially recently during this pandemic. So when people lose their jobs, employment insurance is a program provided by the government to give them income. So I could say another example of a social program is employment insurance. And then I need to write a sentence here, okay? Oh, and also I want you to write the word in the middle. So social programs. Then I use it in a sentence. So, use the word in a sentence. Social programs are blah, 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 blah. I'm not going to give that to you. Okay? Does that make sense? I hope so. If not, send me an email or come to the Google meeting later on today. All right, and there are also a few other terms in here. We have public health care, private health care, health insurance, and profit. Now, we need to know the difference between these two for sure. So public health care paid for by taxes, and then private health care paid for by individuals. Now, public health care we have in Canada, private health care is what they have in the United States. So two very different models. Now, health insurance, this ties into private health care. So an agreement by a company to pay for your health services in exchange for a fee that you pay each month or each year. So for private healthcare, most people have health insurance because it's very expensive, and health insurance is probably the most practical way to go. Profit, well, money made by a product or service. I'm not going to go through that right now. Now we have, here we're talking about the taxes that we have. So 3 taxes you're going to look at. You have income tax, GST, and PST. And then also we have here the taxation model and the tax base. So these are more tax-related vocabulary. We'll definitely understand these ones a little bit more as we go along. And then the last two we have is underground economy or the black market, and then tax evasion. So these are things of ways people avoid paying taxes and negatively affects our tax base and our economy, to be perfectly honest. So for each of these, go through the slides here, and it'll have the terms listed at the top. There are 11 slides altogether. There's not that many words. I think there is, 9 words that you have to do. Not too bad. Some of them are lumped together. So like for example, income tax, GST, and PST are all lumped together. Just add the definitions, and then you just need to do two examples, and then I'll use one of them in a sentence, because they're all taxes. I didn't feel like you need to do separate. You need to do separate slides for each one. I felt that was a little redundant. Okay, so this is a pretty straightforward little lesson, just an introduction and just getting some of the terminology down. So this is just our start to Chapter 8, and best of luck, kiddos. I'm sure you're going to do fantastic. I'll talk to you later.